Hello everyone. In this video lecture, let us understand part B of module 2, basic concepts. In this lecture, let us understand the lexical conventions in Verilog. So first let us understand about what are lexical conventions, and then we shall understand each of the lexical elements available in Verilog. So lexical elements, also known as the tokens, they are used to construct statements, declarations, definitions, which are needed to construct a complete program. What do we mean by this? So to write a complete program, we need a complete set of instructions. So there are some rules governing how we write an instruction. What are the different rules available? How do we represent numbers? How do we write keywords? How do we write user defined or identifiers? How do we write comments? So those set of rules come under lexical elements. So we have these lexical elements are the basic building blocks to construct statements, to construct definitions or declarations, which are in turn needed to construct a complete program. So in Verilog, we have the following lexical elements. So we will be understanding about the comments, identifiers, keywords, numbers, strings, character literals, user-defined literals, and spaces also. So let's understand each one of them. First, let us understand about the white spaces. We know that we have different types of white spaces, like the blank space, which is represented as the backslash b. We have the tabs, which is backslash t. We have the new line character, which is backslash n. These different kinds of spaces are the white spaces, and Verilog simulators ignores these white spaces. So any given white space in an instruction is ignored. So we will understand, or we'll observe that, and we will understand how white spaces are ignored. But white spaces are not ignored in strings. So in any instruction, white spaces are ignored, but they are not ignored in strings. Let's look into an example. The first three lines of code represent a module named add bit. So it's adding some bits. So the port list contains A, B, C, I, some C naught, and inputs are declared A, B, C, I. And then on the same line in continuation, an output is declared the sum comma C out. And then we have the wire declaration and A, B, C, I, sum C naught, and then end module. What do we observe in this line of code? These three lines of code can be well written as shown below. So you can write module. See, we have left a tab space over here. And then we have written add bit. And then if you observe in this line of code, we have written everything with a comma without any space between them, without any blank space. But here we have separated each of them with a blank space. Similarly here, these variables, so we had input, all the input line written on the same line, we have just separated them, and we have included lot of spaces. So we have included a new line character here, we have included a new line here. In this case, in this first code, we have put input, output, and wire on the same line, but we have split them by putting an enter key, that is a new line on different lines. And we have given sufficient blank spaces here, a tab space is also given. So both the codes works perfectly fine in this particular case. So what do we understand from this? Any kind of white space, that is a tab space or a blank space or a new line character, that is an enter, is not considered by the Verilog, and it ignores it and gives the same result. So white spaces are ignored by the Verilog simulator, but it is considered inside a string. So that is important to be remembered. Next, let us understand about comments. Comments basically are written to improve the readability of a code and helps in documentation. The program works well even without comments. Comments just helps to improve the readability, so that when the user comes back to see the program, he knows which bits of lines represent what operation. So in Verilog, we have two types of comments, a single line comment and a multi-line comment. The single line or the one line comment always starts with two forward slashes, and multiple line comment starts with a slash star and ends with a star slash. So when we have a comment to be written more than one line, we can use the multiple line commenter, and if it's just a single line, we can use the single line commenter. Multiple line comments cannot be nested. This means you cannot have one multiple line comment inside another multiple line comment. Let's look into examples of this. So you can observe here A is equal to B and C. If you want to write a single line comment, so this you can just put two forward slashes and just write this is a one line comment. And when the comment exceeds two lines, you can use slash star and end it with a star slash. You can use any number of lines. So this is a multiple line comment going with two lines. And the last point which was here was multiple line comments cannot be nested. So you can see here we have one multiple line comment beginning, and again even before closing this multiple line comment we have one more multiple line comment. So we have one multiple line comment nested or inside another multiple line comment. So this is illegal. You cannot do this kind of commenting in Verilog. Let's understand the next lexical element, operators. Operators, they are of three types: unary, binary and ternary, depending on the number of operands they operate on. Unary means these operators work or only on a single operand. So they just have unary operators just precede the operand, they just have a single operand. Binary operators normally appear between two operands because binary operators need two operands. And the ternary operators, they have two separate operators and three operands. So we will understand each of these operators in the further modules about the different types of operators which are here. But what we need to understand here is, if it is a unary operator always appears on the left hand side of the operand. For example, not of A. So not operator is the unary, A is the operand, so it is appearing on the left hand side. If it is a binary operator, it will appear between two operands. So if you have to look into an example, you can just check here, it's A equal to not of B. So we have only a single operand here. So this is the unary operator, it is appearing on the left hand side. Second example is A is equal to B logical and C. So this requires two operands B and C, binary operator, and binary operator always appears in between the two operands. And the ternary operator will have two separate operators. So question mark and colon are the operators and B, C, D are the operands. It has three operands and two operators. So understanding about this, how this works, we will see in the further modules. So this is a ternary operator. So how they are represented, how they appear is about the operators here. Next, let us understand how numbers are specified in Verilog. So there are two types of number specification in Verilog, namely the sized and the unsized. First, let us understand about the sized numbers, how sized numbers are represented. So sized numbers are basically represented as, first we mention the size, followed by the tick operator, followed by the base format and the actual number. So the size basically indicates the number of bits. So if it is a 4-bit number, we write 4 here. If it is an 8-bit number, we write 8. If it is a 15-bit number, we are going to write 15. If it is a 64-bit number, we are going to write a 64. So size indicates the total number of bits in the given number, followed by the tick operator. Then comes the base format. So base format, so size is basically written in decimal and it specifies the number of bits in the number. Talking about the base format, so we know different number formats, number base formats which are there. So if you write a D here, if we write tick D or tick capital D, it represents that the number here is in decimal. If you use tick H, it is hexadecimal number. If it is tick B, then it is a binary number, and if it is tick O, then it is octal number. So the base formats indicate the type of the number that you want to represent, and the number represents the actual number. Let us take some examples and understand. So 4 tick B 1011, this represents a 4-bit because the first number tells you the size. Tick B indicates it is binary, 4-bit binary number. What is the number? 1011. So this is a 4-bit binary number. Next, 12 tick HDEC. This is a 12 indicates it's a 12-bit number. Tick H represents it as hexadecimal. DEC, this is the number. But how is it representing as a 12-bit number? I cannot see 12 bits. So you can understand that this is a 12-bit hexadecimal number. Each character here, D, gets represented in a 4-bit format. So D is 1101, E is 111014, C is 110012. So it is a totally 12-bit number that we write here. So this number basically talks about the total number of bits irrespective of this base format. 16 tick D 255. This is a 16-bit decimal number. The number is 255 and its 16-bit representation looks like this. 255 is actually 8 ones. Because it is a 16-bit number, it's prefixed with all zeros. So this is the 16-bit representation of 255. Now let us understand an unsized number. So if we do not specify any size or if we do not mention a base format, the general format was size, base format and the number. If we do not mention any base format, by default, the number system considered is decimal number system. And if we do not write the size, by default, it takes the size of the machine specific implementation, which should be at least the minimum size must be 32 bits. So if we do not mention the size like 4-bit, 12-bit or 10-bit, then it takes the machine size, which is the default number. But that size should be minimum 32 bits. It can be more than this also. Let's understand with an example. If you write a number like 4567, if you observe, you have not written how many bit number it is, which base or which number system it is, because 4567 can be a decimal number, 4567 can be a hexadecimal number also, 4567 can also be an octal number system. So when you have not mentioned any, first thing, if you have not mentioned any base, this is considered to be decimal number, and if you have not mentioned any size, then this is going to be a 32-bit decimal number 4567. So this is a 32-bit decimal number by default. Let's take this. Tick H C5. So in this case, we have mentioned the number system, but we have mentioned the number system, that is the base format, but we have not mentioned the size. So this represents a 32-bit hexadecimal number C5. So C5 is converted into 32-bit number by adding zeros as a prefix. Tick O 34. Tick O indicates octal. No size mentioned, so it is 32-bit. So this is a 32-bit octal number 34. Now let us understand about the X or Z values, where X represents the unknown and Z represents the high impedance value. So Verilog supports two symbols for unknown and high impedance value, that is X and Z. And these values are very important while we model real-time circuits, because any digital circuit is subjected to an unknown or a high impedance state. So the unknown value is represented by an X and the high impedance value is represented by a Z. Now let us see how these are represented in a number. Consider the number 12 tick H13X. So this represents a 12-bit. Tick H indicates hexadecimal. 12-bit hexadecimal number 13X. So we know that every digit, hexadigit, will be converted into 4-bit format. So 1 will be represented as 0001, 3 will be represented as 0011, and this last unknown bit over here, the least significant digit is unknown, this will also be represented as 4x. That is, this is a 12-bit hexa number where the 4 least significant bits are unknown, and it is represented as 0001, 0011 and all 4x. 9 tick O X13. So this represents a 9-bit octal number. The number is X13. We know that every digit in octal is represented by a 3-bit binary number. So this is 3-bit, 3-bit and 3-bit. So this is a 9-bit octal number, and the 3 most significant bits are unknown here. The most significant digit itself is X. So this is how it is represented as a 9-bit number. 1, 3 and this is the X. 4-tick binary 01x1. So this represents a 4-bit binary number, and the number is 01x1 itself, because binary is a single digit over there. So this is a 4-bit binary number. The number is 01x1 itself. So we can have x and z values even in numbers, and their value remains unknown while we use them in various operations. Let us understand how negative numbers are represented in Verilog. So negative numbers, they can be specified, we all know, by putting a negative sign or a minus sign before the size for a constant number. So we can use an optional signed specifier, that is, we can use the keyword signed for signed arithmetic. So signed numbers can be both positive and negative. Unsigned numbers are only positive numbers. So using the keyword signed, we can use both positive and negative numbers. Let's see some examples of negative numbers. So if we write minus 8 tick d3, this represents a negative 8-bit number which is stored as the 2's complement of 3, because we know that all negative numbers are represented in their 2's complement format. So if you don't have this minus sign, this represents 8-bit decimal 3. With the minus sign, this is an 8-bit decimal 3, but it's stored as the 2's complement of 3. Minus 6sd3. So the s specifier is the signed specifier. So this indicates it's a signed integer. It's a 6-bit signed integer 3, and the value is again stored in the 2's complement format. We cannot represent negative numbers like this. 4 tick d minus 3. You cannot put the minus sign somewhere in between of the specification of a number. You have to put that always before the size. So this becomes an illegal specification. So negative numbers are represented by putting a minus sign before the size. Let us see more about the numbers. If the prefix is preceded by a number, the number defines the bit width. We know this concept. If we do not give any prefix, that is, if we do not mention the size, by default, the size that is assumed is 32 bits, that is machine specific. Verilog will expand the value, the number, to fill the given size, working from LSB to MSB. What does this mean? If the given number is small, say for example, you tell it is 8-bit binary or 8-bit decimal 2. Actually, to represent 2, then we need only 2 bits. But if you are mentioning it as 8 bits, zeros are prefixed. So you are going to expand the number. So if the size is smaller than the value, okay, so the first case that we discussed was if the size is larger than the value, then the MSBs of the value are filled regardless of the MSB being 0 or 1. Zero filling is done. So we fill zeros to all those places. But if the size is smaller, let's say I say 2-bit decimal 8. So actually to represent 8, we need 4 bits, 1, 0, 0, 0. But when we tell it is 2 bits, then the size has to be matched. So the MSBs are truncated, they are removed with a warning. So they just show a warning, the size do not match, but automatically the MSB bits are deleted if the size is small. So it is always good practice to have a size which is larger or of the same size. So this is a representation. So if the leftmost bit is 0, then in the expansion also we extend a 0. If the leftmost bit is 1, then the extension is still a 0, meaning to say if it is 8 and if you have to 8 is 1 0 0 0. If you have to make that 8 another 8-bit numbers, then still you're going to put only zeros. So whether the leftmost bit is 0 or the leftmost bit is 1, to make the number big enough to expand, we have to always include zeros to the MSB. But if it is an X, if the MSB is an X, then you should extend X itself, XXX, and if it is a Z or a Z, you should extend ZZZ. This indicates that if you have some 0 or 1 number in the MSB and you want to expand the size, you should always expand by putting a 0. But if you have an X or a Z, you should expand by putting an X or a Z required number of bit positions. Next, let us understand about underscore characters and question mark. So basically an underscore character is allowed anywhere in a number except the first character. Except the first character, because first character as an underscore is treated as an identifier or user defined name. So why should we use these underscore characters is because they help you to improve the readability of large numbers, and underscore between numbers are ignored by Verilog. So ignored means they are not compiled. And a question mark, that is a question mark, it represents an alternative for Z. So whenever you want to write a high impedance state as a capital Z or a small z, you can also use a question mark in that context of numbers. So let's see examples for this. See, this is a 12-bit number 1111 1010 1101. If I ask the hexadecimal representation, then probably each one of you have to start counting 4 bits, then stop here 4 bits. But if we write the same number in this format, it is so easy. You can read this as F, A and D. So it's very easy to read the numbers when you put an underscore, especially when you have large numbers, and an underscore between numbers are ignored. And 4 tick binary 10 question mark question mark. This is same as writing 4 tick binary 10 question mark is an alternative for Z. So it is same as writing 10ZZ. Let us understand the next lexical convention, the strings. So strings are basically a sequence of characters or a group of characters that are enclosed within double quotes. So any group of characters, any special characters within double quotes is considered to be a string. The only restriction on a string is that the string must be only on a single line. It cannot be on multiple lines. That is, a string cannot have a carriage return. A new line character must not be there. It should be on a single line. Let us look into an example. So we have some set of characters here. Hello everyone, enclosed within double quotes. So this is a valid string. So let us count how many characters are there in this string. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we observe, we have a space, a white space, that is the blank space between these characters and these set of characters. In a string, the blank space, the white space is also counted. It is not ignored. Every space is counted in a string which is enclosed within double quotes. So we have to count even this as a character. So this is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So this is a string, a valid string with 14 special characters in it, or 14 characters in it. A space slash space B slash space close quote. So this is also a string, a valid string. We can include any special character in this particular string. So this is also a valid string because you have some set of characters enclosed within double quotes, and this ends in a single line. It is not entering a new line. Next, the identifiers and keywords are the next lexical conventions that we are going to study. So keywords are reserved words. We know keywords are used to define the language constructs. They indicate a particular task to be done. So keywords in Verilog should always appear in lowercase, the small case letters. It should not appear in the capital case or the uppercase. These are some of the keywords in Verilog. I have not listed all. So module is a keyword, input is a keyword, output is a keyword, end module is a keyword, wire is a keyword, assign is a keyword, always, register, and many more. So all the keywords must appear in small case letter only in Verilog. Next are the identifiers. So identifiers are names which we give to an object to identify that object in the program. So in short, we can call identifiers as user-defined literals or user-defined names. These are the names we give to a register variable or a function or a module so that we can refer that particular name from any other place in the code. So we have some set of rules for writing identifiers. So the first rule to write an identifier is all identifiers must begin with an alphabet character or the underscore character. Any identifier must begin with an alphabet or the underscore character. The second one is it may contain different numbers. Special character allowed is only the dollar symbol. No other special character is allowed. It can begin with an underscore or can have an underscore. So the only allowed characters are small case A to Z, capital case A to Z, numbers 0 to 9, and underscore and dollar, but it should not begin with a dollar. Identifiers can be up to 1024 characters long. So when you write any user defined name to give a name to a module or a registered variable or a function, remember it should always begin with an alphabet or an underscore. It may contain any of the letters, numbers, and the only special characters allowed are underscore and dollar, but it should not begin with a dollar, and it can be up to 1024 characters long. Let us understand the last lexical convention, the escaped identifiers. We just understood that identifiers have certain rules in writing, so they should begin with an alphabet or an underscore, and no other special characters other than the underscore and the dollar symbol are allowed in an identifier. So if we need to include any character, any printable character in an identifier, then it is allowed by escaping the identifier or by the use of escaped identifiers. So escaped identifiers helps us to include any special character in the user defined name. How do we do that? So to use an identifier with special characters, we have to escape that by beginning with a backslash and ending with a white space. Let us look into an example, then you'll be more clear about it. So when you begin any identifier with a backslash and end it with a white space, that is either a blank space, then the entire identifier is escaped by the backslash and it is acceptable. Now let us look into this example. Module followed by the module name. What is the module name here? It is a 1DFF. Now, is 1DFF a valid identifier? No. Why? We know the rule for writing an identifier is it should begin with an alphabet or an underscore. But in this case, it is beginning with a number over here. So this is not valid and it is not allowed. But if you still want to use this name as it is, then just prefix it with a backslash and end it with a white space. So I have included a space here. So when you prefix it with a backslash and end it with a white space, this becomes an escaped identifier and it is accepted by Verilog. Similarly, in the port list here, you can observe we have Q bar. But we know that how is Q bar written over here? Q complement. This not symbol, the tilde symbol is written. This is a special character and it is actually not allowed in Verilog. But if you want to use that, then we have prefixed this particular identifier with a backslash and we have ended it with a space. CL dollar clock. So the CL dollar K, this is a valid identifier because the dollar symbol is included somewhere in the middle and it is allowed. Reset star asterisk symbol. This asterisk symbol is not allowed in an identifier, but to use it we have prefixed it with a backslash and we are ending it with a space. So this identifier is escaped by the backslash and the Verilog compiler will not give you any error. And as usual, the input and output variables are declared in this particular module. So when you have declared an identifier as an escaped identifier, throughout the program they should be used as an escaped identifier, that is prefix it with a backslash and end with a white space. Prefix it with a backslash and end with a white space to make that identifier acceptable. Let's look into these identifiers and identify whether they are legal or illegal, that is valid or invalid. System 1. Is this a valid identifier? Yes, it is a valid identifier because it begins with an alphabet and it has some numbers but no special characters. 1 REG. Is this a valid identifier? No. Why? Because this identifier begins with a number and we know that the rule for an identifier tells it should not begin with a number. Dollar latch. Is this a valid identifier? No. Why? Because this identifier begins with a special character dollar and the rule is it should begin with an alphabet or an underscore. EXEC dollar. Is this a valid identifier? Yes, it is a valid identifier because it follows all the rules of writing an identifier. So in this video lecture, we understood the various lexical conventions in Verilog like the white spaces, comments, number specifications, strings, identifiers, keywords, and how they are used in Verilog. Thank you.